Just an ordinary, brown, worn-out 1979 Lincoln cent, and realizing you're holding a life-changing secret. A coin that looks like every other penny you've seen for decades. But this particular one could be worth over $1.5 million. Not because it's shiny, not because it's rare in a way most people understand, but because of an error, an accident, a single moment during the minting process that created something almost nobody has ever recognized until now. Most people who have held one of these didn't even know it. They spent it. They handed it over as change for a cup of coffee. They lost it in a couch cushion. They swept it off a counter and into a jar without thinking twice. This is the story of the 1979 D Lincoln penny that has been hiding in plain sight. Now, stay with me, because this coin does not reveal itself right away. It doesn't call attention to itself. And that's exactly why it's so dangerous and so valuable. For decades, collectors and dealers believed there was nothing special about 1979 pennies. They were minted by the billions. They were everyday money. They were forgettable. But then, just a few years ago, something happened. A man in Denver was going through his late father's coin jars. Just simple jars of old pennies, change gathered from pockets over a lifetime. He wasn't a collector. He didn't know what to look for. But something about one penny caught his attention. The color looked different. The surface looked off. The metal felt wrong, and that tiny moment, that flicker of curiosity, turned into a discovery that sent shockwaves through the numismatic world. Because that penny wasn't copper like normal 1979 pennies. It was struck on the wrong planchet. A metal blank mint for a completely different coin. A mistake at the Denver Mint that slipped through the system and entered everyday circulation. And that mistake, that tiny slip of a worker or a machine on one single day in 1979, turned a 1-cent coin into a $1 million treasure. Now, before we go deeper, I want to make something absolutely clear. If you have pennies from the 1970s, if you have jars, rolls, tin cans, coffee mugs full of them, do not underestimate them. Because the 1979 D wrong planchet penny doesn't look spectacular. It doesn't scream value. It whispers. But once you know how to listen, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Think back to 1979. Gas was cheap. The US Mint was producing billions of coins, nonstop. The Denver Mint especially was pushing volume. And every once in a while, during that pressure, something slips. A different metal blank gets mixed into the bin. Maybe a dime blank. Maybe a foreign coin blank. Maybe something left over from a test production run. And once that blank gets fed into the press, it becomes something the mint didn't intend. Check the mint mark. You are looking specifically for the 1979 penny with the D mint mark, that small letter just below the date. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The weight is key. A normal 1979 penny is made of 95% copper and weighs about 3.11 grams. But the wrong planchet version is lighter, much lighter, around 2.5 grams, similar to a dime. So if you pick up your penny and it feels just a little too light, that is your first clue. Second, look at the edge. The edge of the wrong planchet penny will look slightly thinner, almost delicate, because it wasn't meant to be a penny at all. And the strike, the way the design sits on the surface, might look slightly off-center or weak. And third, the color. It might look a little more silverish, or duller, not the warm copper tone of typical pennies. Point 3 signs. Weight, thickness, color. That's how an ordinary coin becomes extraordinary. Imagine finding something like that. Imagine you go through your change one night, not expecting anything. You sit at the kitchen table, maybe with a cup of coffee. You start sorting, and then your heart stops, because you realize you have something that almost nobody else has ever seen in real life. A coin that shouldn't exist. A coin that collectors whisper about. A coin worth more than some houses. This isn't a fantasy. It happens. It has happened. It will happen again. Because mistakes like this don't come alone. If one wrong planchet penny was struck that day in 1979, there could be others. Still circulating. Still being handed from palm to palm. Still sitting in coin jars across America. And that's why collectors are searching like never before. Because the value of this coin didn't just come from rarity. It came from mystery. From time. From the simple fact that almost nobody realized it existed. Now, let's step into the emotional side of this. For many of us, especially those of us who grew up before digital money, coins were history. They were little pieces of America you could hold. We saw wheat pennies, steel pennies, Bicentennial quarters. Coins that told stories. This coin tells your story. The story of a country that minted billions of pennies that nobody cared about and hid a treasure among them. The story of someone who might have walked past greatness every day of their life without knowing. This is why coin collecting matters. Not because we chase every small variation. Not because we stare at metal for fun. But because sometimes something small, something overlooked, turns out to be meaningful, rare, valuable, life-changing. You could pick up a penny off the ground tomorrow, and it could be the one. Let's reset again. Just to lock this in 1979, D mint mark unusual weight around 2.5 grams thin rim or slightly off-strike design color that doesn't look like copper. If you have a scale, test it. If you don't, get one. They cost less than lunch and could help you find something worth over $1 million. And I want you to picture this, really picture it. You go to a coin show. You walk in, heart pounding. You approach a dealer who has seen everything, and you hand him this penny. He looks at it. He blinks. He asks to take out his loop. Then his face changes. And in that moment, you realize your life has just shifted direction. This is not just a story about money. It's a story about awareness, about paying attention, about realizing that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones the world tries to convince you are worthless. Yet one version of this coin has sold for over $1 million. And almost no one knows what to look for. Not dealers, not collectors, not even most experts. Now imagine that the coin we're talking about is a 1976 D Lincoln penny, the same year as the bicentennial quarters and half dollars. A year when America was celebrating 200 years of independence. Flags flown everywhere, parades, music, and without anyone realizing it, the U.S. Mint was quietly producing one of the rarest, most mysterious penny errors ever rumored to exist. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share could change the way you look at your pocket change forever. In 1976, most pennies were struck from bronze, a mix of copper, tin, and zinc. The Mint made billions of them. You could walk into any store, spend $1, and get several back. Completely forgettable. But here's the twist. There have been whispers for decades that a small number of 1976 D pennies were never supposed to exist at all. They were struck on the wrong type of metal, a metal that was never released to the public. Except somehow, someway, a few escaped. Collectors call it the ghost planchet. A leftover experimental aluminum planchet from the early 1970s that accidentally made its way into the production line. Only a handful are believed to have been struck. Some say fewer than 10. Some say fewer than 3. And one of them sold in private hands for nearly $1.6 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny, a coin worth 1 cent, that someone traded hands for more than a house, more than most people make in 20 years. And it could still be out there, in circulation, in a jar, in a drawer, in a shoebox that hasn't been opened in years. Now here's where it gets interesting. People assume rare coins have to look fancy. But sometimes the rarest treasures hide behind the most ordinary faces. If you hold a 1976 D penny in your hand right now, you might be looking at a fortune and just don't know it. Let's break it down. And listen carefully, because this is where lives change. First, look at the mint mark. The letter D. It must be a 1976 penny with a clear D mint mark under the date. If there's no mint mark, that's not the one. If it's an S-proof coin, not the one. You want the 1976 D penny. A normal 1976 penny weighs about 3.11 grams. That's because it's made of bronze. But the rumored $1 million version? It weighs approximately 2.7 grams. Sometimes 2.8. That tiny difference is everything. It means it wasn't made from normal penny metal. It means something went wrong. Something slipped past the mint workers. Something they tried to erase from history. So you need a scale. A simple digital jewelry scale. They cost a few dollars. And I'm telling you, that could be the most profitable few dollars you will ever spend in your lifetime. That if your 1976 D penny weighs under 3 grams, stop everything and get it authenticated. Now, if you don't have a scale, you can still look for clues. This penny often looks lighter in color, sometimes slightly more gray than the warm copper tone we're used to. The edges can appear smoother. The sound is different too. Drop a normal penny on a table and listen. Then drop the suspected one. The rare one has a softer, duller sound due to its metal composition. I want you to remember something. People who found rare coins didn't find them because they were lucky. They found them because they knew what to look for. They knew where treasure hides. Let me reset your attention for a moment. Close your eyes and imagine opening that old coffee can in the laundry room. The one filled with coins your grandfather saved. Imagine pouring them out onto a kitchen table, pennies rolling everywhere. And there it is. One coin. Same date you've seen 1,000 times. But something looks different. Something feels different. Your fingers pause. Your heart slows. Your breath catches. You weigh it 2.8 grams. Suddenly, you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a moment. A key. A doorway. A ticket to a new life. That is the power of coin collecting. That is the power of knowledge. That is the power of paying attention to what others ignore. Now, before we go further, I need to tell you the mysterious backstory. Because this isn't just about money. It's about history, secrecy, and chance that in the early 70s, the U.S. Mint experimented with aluminum pennies to reduce production costs. But Congress shut the project down. The aluminum pennies were supposed to be destroyed. Every single one of them. But mistakes happen. Human hands handle these coins. Machines move thousands of blanks per minute. And once a coin escapes into the wild, it becomes part of America. It becomes part of stories. Pocket to pocket. State to state. Decade to decade. A time traveler hiding in plain sight. $1 million rarity could be in your possession, and you'd never know unless you look. Another attention reset here. Right now, someone watching this has one of these pennies. I don't know who. It could be you. It could be someone you know. It could be sitting in a jar in a relative's home. Every day that passes is another day the right penny moves closer to the right person. Here's what you do next. Check every 1976 penny you have. If you don't have any, get some. Local coin shops, estate sales, flea markets, even banks. People trade these coins every day without realizing what they are, then weigh them. If you find one under 3 grams, contact a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC. Do not clean it. Do not scrub it. Do not polish it. Cleaning coins destroys their value. Handle it by the edges only. Even if yours isn't the aluminum version, there are also rare 1976 double die varieties. Some of those can be worth thousands of dollars in high grade. Look closely at the date and the lettering. If the edges of the numbers or letters look doubled or shadowed, that may be a valuable variety. This is why collectors love the hunt. Every drawer, every coin roll, every pocket holds possibility. Let me do one more reset, because this is the heart of the message. You are not just searching for coins. You are searching for moments, stories, history, something left behind for you to find. And sometimes, just sometimes, the smallest things hold the biggest value. But that's the reality behind a mysterious 1964 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent that collectors whisper about like a treasure legend. Now let's slow down for a moment. Because to really understand why this penny is so valuable, you have to know its story. And this story begins during one of the most chaotic years in American coin history. The United States Mint was in crisis. Silver prices were rising fast. Coin shortages were spreading everywhere. People were hoarding dimes, quarters, half dollars. The mint was scrambling, running machines day and night to keep currency circulating. They were striking pennies nonstop at multiple mint facilities. Philadelphia, Denver, even San Francisco got involved in some aspects of production. Millions upon millions of coins were flying out into the world. In that chaos, mistakes happened. And when mistakes happen inside the U.S. Mint, that's where legends begin. Most 1964 pennies are extremely common. Billions existed. You could scoop them up in handfuls back in the day. But there is one variation, one tiny detail, that transforms a penny into a treasure. A missing mint mark. A missing feature where there should have been one. At the time, Philadelphia typically produced coins without mint marks, yes. But the mystery behind the 1964 no mint mark variety that collectors chase is not just any normal Philadelphia coin. The valuable version has something different about it. Something with its design, its striking quality, and the metal composition. Something that sets it apart like a diamond hiding among gravel. And that is where the mystery deepens. Some experts believe this ultra-rare 1964 penny was part of a test strike, an experimental sample, produced under total secrecy during the transition from bronze to a different penny alloy mixture the mint had been testing. These test pennies were never meant to be released. They were supposed to be destroyed. Now, imagine that. A secret test coin. A coin that wasn't supposed to survive. A coin that slipped into circulation by accident, maybe in someone's pocket, maybe in a cashier's till, maybe handed out as change for a pack of gum. And now today, that same coin could be sitting quietly in a jar in your home. A silent fortune waiting to be rediscovered. Let that sink in. Let's reset your attention. You and I are about to walk step by step through exactly what makes this penny special and how to identify it. First, let's talk about the date, 1964. Clean, sharp, evenly struck numbers. The normal 1964 penny was made primarily of copper and zinc. But this rare version is believed to have slightly different metal composition. Its color and surface tone look just slightly off. Some describe it as having a deeper, richer reddish-brown tone that hasn't faded into the dull dark brown many old pennies become. Now I want you to imagine holding a handful of pennies. Run your fingers across them. Look carefully. Look for one that just looks different. Next, the mint mark. This is critical. Many 1964 pennies have a tiny D under the date, meaning they were struck in Denver. Those are not what we're talking about. The rare one is missing the mint mark, but not in the normal Philadelphia sense. On these rare examples, there is evidence that the surface where the mint mark should have been was never prepared or engraved correctly. No tool marks, no strike remnants. It is completely clean, perfectly blank. The L collectors look for an unusually sharp strike on Lincoln's profile. The beard details, the lines in the coat, the texture of the hair. These details are deeply engraved, more than common circulation versions. This tells us the die used to make these coins was brand new, fresh, likely part of experimental test production. Now let's talk about the reverse, the wheat. No, wait. 1964 had the Lincoln Memorial reverse. Look closely at the small statue of Lincoln inside the memorial. That statue should be visible if the strike is strong. On the rare version, that statue stands out crystal clear. Next, reset. Let's talk emotion. Because the value of this penny isn't just in metal or rarity. It's in the dream behind it. Every coin collector, every person who ever held a coin and wondered about its story, has dreamed of finding something that changes everything. Something that proves luck is real. Something that says, yes, treasures do still exist in everyday life. Imagine this, that you're going through spare change one quiet evening. A little bored, maybe sipping coffee. You're flipping coins the way you've done 1,000 times before. And suddenly, one coin feels different. You look closer. Your heart starts to tap a little harder. Your breath tightens. You realize the date is right. The mint mark is missing. The details look sharper. The color looks just a little too perfect. Your hands start shaking because you know this could be it. Not everyone gets a moment like that. Most people go their whole lives never discovering something extraordinary. But coin collectors, we chase history, mystery, and possibility. We chase that electric moment where a simple object becomes priceless. Now let's reset again and talk value. When collectors learned one of these rare 1964 test strike pennies existed, the bidding wars began. And when the price surged past $1 million, the coin world went silent. Because it proved something powerful. Treasures don't have to be buried. Fortunes don't have to be hidden in banks. Life-changing discoveries can be found in the smallest everyday things. Even in the change you got from a vending machine. Yes, there could, because nobody knows exactly how many escaped the mint. It could be 1. It could be 5. It could be 10. And they are out there somewhere, circulating, forgotten, sitting in drawers, boxes, coffee cans, old wallets, inherited coin jars, basement storage bins. And that is why collectors search, not just for money, but for the story, for the thrill, for the moment everything changes. So here's what you do tonight. Go to that drawer, that jar, that box, the one you haven't looked through in years. Pour out those pennies, spread them out. Bring a good light. Hold each one up carefully. Check the date. 1964. Check under the date. No mint mark. Check Lincoln's profile, sharp detail, strong strike. Check the memorial, clear statue inside. Check the color, rich, warm copper tone. If you find one that matches all of that, don't spend it, don't clean it, don't touch it more than you have to. Place it in a soft cloth, and then speak to a trusted coin appraiser or grading service. Because the difference between a common penny and one of these rare treasures is literally over $1 million. And one last thing. Coins like this don't just appear. They have a story full of confusion, secrecy, and mistakes that were never supposed to happen. And that story begins in the year 1965. This was a time when America was in the middle of a coin shortage. Banks were running low. Businesses were begging for change. People were hoarding silver coins because prices were rising. So the U.S. Mint took drastic action. They removed mint marks from coins so nobody would know where they came from, hoping to stop collectors from hoarding them. Every penny, every nickel, every dime, every quarter from 1965, 1966, and 1967 was struck without a mint marked in 1965. The mint was still transitioning from older equipment. Some older dies were still lying around. Some mistakes, the kind that slip past inspectors, the kind that are never meant to see daylight, somehow happened anyway. And a very small number of 1965 pennies were struck incorrectly. Some were struck on the wrong metal. Some were struck with older dies. Some came out in a condition that wasn't supposed to exist. Most people will never see one. Most people will never even know that they exist. But a few collectors have discovered these hidden mistakes. And when one of these rare 1965 no-mint mark Lincoln pennies surfaced in a private sale, it fetched over $1.8 million. Not because it was old, not because it was silver, but because it wasn't supposed to exist. That let's reset the scene. Imagine opening a drawer and the light catches a penny just right. A slight shine, a little extra detail in Lincoln's hair, a cleaner edge, something that makes you stop. Your heart beats a little faster. You don't know why yet, but something feels different. Now, here's what makes this coin valuable. There are three main details that separate a normal 1965 penny from the ultra-rare one. The weight. A normal 1965 penny should weigh about 3.11 grams if it was made before the metal change. But most 1965 pennies weigh about 2.5 grams because by that time the mint was already transitioning into the copper-plated zinc era and experimenting. The million-dollar variety weighs 3.11 grams. To check that, you just need a simple scale. The same kind used for jewelry or kitchen ingredients. The strike detail. On the rare 1965, Lincoln's coat lines appear sharper. His hair has more texture. The letters, especially in the words Liberty and I in God We Trust, look like they were carved with a finer hand. Normal pennies look softer, more rounded, more mass-produced. The color tone. Older, higher quality copper has a deep, rich reddish-brown tone that doesn't look faded or dull. It has warmth, life, like it's been preserved instead of spent. You don't need to be an expert to notice these differences. You just need to pay attention. Let's take another pause. Because here's the emotional truth behind this coin. This story isn't just about metal. It's about possibility. It's about the idea that something rare, something life-changing, something worth over $1 million could be hiding among the most ordinary objects in your home. We all dream of treasure. Some people think treasure comes from faraway lands, hidden caves, diving beneath ocean waves. But sometimes, treasure is sitting right in front of us. This coin represents that possibility. Now imagine you're at a flea market. A man selling old coins has a jar of 1 cent each pennies. People walk by without even looking. The man probably thinks he's selling junk. But someone with knowledge, someone who has listened closely, someone like you, picks up one coin and turns it between their fingers. The weight feels different. The color looks richer. And suddenly your heart races again. Not every treasure is loud. Some whisper, a 1965 penny with no mint mark might seem boring. Millions were made. But the rare few are hiding in the noise. And only those who know what to look for will ever find them. Let's talk about how these coins ended up in circulation. Most collectors believe these rare pennies were part of experimental runs, possibly struck in small test batches. Maybe someone at the mint pocketed a few. Maybe they were accidentally mixed in with regular coins. Maybe someone at the mint knew exactly what they were doing. We'll never know. That mystery is part of the value. The unknown is priceless. Those small, forgotten piles could be worth more than a new car, more than a new house, more than some people make in a lifetime. That's why this matters. Now, how do you test your pennies? First, find them. Dig out the change jars. Look under the couch cushions. Search inside old coat pockets. Anywhere pennies might gather over time. Then, get a scale. They cost a few dollars online or in a local store. Look for a weight of 3.11 grams. If it weighs that, set it aside. Next, use a magnifying glass. Look at Lincoln's hair. If it has fine detail, sharp lines, clear contours, You may be holding something special. And finally, keep the coin safe. Don't clean it. Don't scratch it. Don't polish it. Cleaning a coin can drop the value by thousands. Just place it in a small coin holder or envelope. This is where patience becomes power. Treasure hunting isn't always about speed. It's about attention. The rare coin world rewards those who look just 1 second longer. Collectors often say that the most valuable coins in the world aren't hidden. They're overlooked. Think about that. Coins pass through more hands in a lifetime than most people do. A single penny can travel the country for decades. It may have sat in a diner cash register in 1972. It may have rested in someone's pocket while they walked across a state fair in 1985. It may have been given as change at a grocery store in 1998. It may have been tossed into a child's piggy bank in 2003. And now, it might be in your house. One coin. One chance. One moment. The emotional power of this coin comes from the idea that history is not past. It is present. It travels with us. It hides in our lives. And when you find something rare, something that was never meant to exist, something the world forgot, it's almost like uncovering a secret left just for you. This isn't luck. This is awareness. This is curiosity. This is paying attention when others don't. People become millionaires not only because they have money, but because they see what others overlooked. Oh, here's the final thought. Don't ignore pennies. Don't walk past change. Don't assume that because something is small, plain, or common that it has no value. The 1984 no mint Mark Lincoln penny. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, most people have never even heard of this coin. Some collectors have spent decades searching for it. Some dealers whisper about it behind closed doors. And some people who actually held it in their hands had no idea what they were looking at. They spent it. They let it go. They might have given away $1 million without ever knowing. Let's go back to 1984. The United States Mint was mass-producing Lincoln pennies by the billions. Copper-plated zinc, light, cheap, made to move through the world without thought or care. Most coins from this year are worth exactly 1 cent. One. But something happened during production. Something rare. Something that shouldn't have happened. Yes, but that's not the key. The key is the error tied to some of these coins. This isn't just a regular Philadelphia penny. This is a very particular kind of mistake. A double die error on the obverse. Specifically, on Lincoln's ear. If that doubled ear is present and the strike is strong and clean, that is where things take a dramatic turn. Collectors call it the 1984 doubled ear penny. It's one of the most dramatic double die errors of any Lincoln cent ever made. If the doubling is sharp and undeniable, especially in mint state condition, that is where we start talking about life-changing money. We're talking thousands, tens of thousands, and at the highest graded levels, potentially reaching that astonishing $1 million territory in private collector bidding wars. Let's pause. Take a breath. Let that sink in. A penny worth more than a house. A penny worth more than retirement. A penny worth more than some people ever see in their entire lifetime. Most people who own it have no idea they own it. Because unless you know exactly where to look, this coin looks normal. Completely normal. It blends in. It hides in plain sight. Collectors talk about this coin in the same tone that treasure hunters talk about maps. Something out there. Rare. Real. But only findable by those who know the signs. Let's talk identification. Because if you have a jar of old pennies anywhere in your house, you need to look. Not later. Not someday. Today. Take any 1984 penny with no mint mark. Flip it under a light. Tilt it. Look at Lincoln's profile. Now focus on his ear. If the coin is normal, you'll see a clean single outline where the sculptor intended. But on the doubled ear variety, you will see a second, distinct shape just below or behind the primary ear. Not a soft shadow. Not something faint. It looks like a second ear was pressed into the metal. That is the giveaway. That is the treasure. Now, here's where the stakes rise again. Condition matters. If the coin is heavily circulated, it still may be worth hundreds, maybe thousands. But if it is crisp, clean, sharp, no major scratches, minimal wear, original luster, that's where the price climbs. That's where collectors start bidding against each other. That's where the number on the table becomes the kind of money most people only dream about. Because every rare coin has a backstory, a mystery, a reason it exists. Think about the workers on the minting floor in 1984. Imagine someone noticing something was off with one of the dies. Maybe they saw the doubling. Maybe they didn't. Maybe the pressure to meet mint quotas was so high that no one had the time to care. Maybe someone did notice and quietly let the machine keep running anyway, because stopping production costs money that we'll never know. But what we do know is that for a short moment in American minting history, a mistake slipped through. A small human error. And that tiny moment of imperfection created something extraordinary. This coin is not just worth money. It is a relic of chance. Reset your attention for a moment. Let's imagine something personal. Think of the first penny you ever held. Maybe as a child, buying candy from a store. Maybe from your parents' change bowl. Maybe from a parking meter. We grow up thinking pennies are worthless. Something to ignore. Something to sweep into a drawer or leave sitting in a cup holder. And that's the irony. That's the twist. That's the poetic punch in the gut. The coin that could change your life is the one everyone overlooks. There are stories. A man in Ohio who found one of these in his father's old fishing tackle box. A woman in Arizona who picked one off the floor of a laundromat. People who didn't search coin rolls, didn't hunt, didn't expect anything. They just looked. And because they looked just a little more carefully than everyone else, their lives changed. This is where your story starts that I want you to take this seriously. I want you to check your change, your old coffee cans, your glove compartment, every drawer where pennies have collected over the years. Because unlike rare gold coins or historical silver coins kept in cases, this one hides in everyday life. Millions of 1984 pennies exist. The doubled ear variety is a tiny fraction of them, but they are out there. And every year, as people spend their old change without thinking, the surviving number gets smaller, which means yours, if you have one, just became more valuable. So let's recap clearly and simply. You are looking for a 1984 penny with no mint mark. That part alone is normal. What matters is the doubled die ear. Look at Lincoln's ear under bright light. You want to see two distinct ear impressions. Not a blur. Not damage. Clear, deliberate doubling created at the mint during the striking process. If you see it, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not scratch it. Do not shine it. Cleaning coins destroys value instantly. The next step is to store it safely and then have it authenticated and graded by a professional grading service. That grading number will determine whether it is worth hundreds, thousands, or yes, possibly reaching the $1 million range if the condition is pristine and the market demand is right. This is where inspiration becomes real. Because this is not about luck. It's about awareness. It's about looking at the world with just a little more curiosity than the average person. Most people go through life thinking everything valuable announces itself. But the greatest treasures in this world are silent, ordinary, invisible to anyone not paying attention that you're paying attention. And that sets you apart. You now know something most people don't. You now have the map that others never received. And the next step is up to you. Don't walk past your change jar again without looking. Don't ignore that penny under the couch cushion. Don't assume something is worthless just because the world told you it is. But what if I told you one of these ordinary little coins, specifically a 2015 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny, has sold for over $1.1 million? Yes, a penny, the same one most people leave behind in the change tray, is changing someone's entire life. Not old, not rare, not something you'd expect to find locked in a museum vault. And that's exactly why collectors across the country are whispering about it. Because it's hidden in plain sight. And most people who have touched one of these $1 million coins never even knew it. Colorado. The Denver Mint is manufacturing billions of coins. People go to work. Machines run. Sheets of copper-plated zinc get punched and stamped. Day after day, coin after coin. Business as usual. But somewhere in that year, during that massive run of production, a small mistake happened. Not the kind of mistake where something is missing, but the kind where something is just slightly wrong. So subtle, so fine, that only a sharp eye could notice it. But subtle enough to change the value from 1 cent to over $1 million. There have always been rumors within the minting community. Stories that certain coins slip through when machines malfunction, or when dies are replaced unevenly, or when pressure shifts. And sometimes, just sometimes, one of those coins makes it past inspection. Past handling, past the bank vault, and into circulation, into a cashier's tray, into someone's pocket, into a handful of change at the gas station. That's where one of these 2015 D pennies was found. Someone, an ordinary person, someone who wasn't even a collector, noticed something strange while counting spare change on their kitchen table. Something about the Lincoln portrait just didn't look right. The relief, the strike, the detail. It was deeper, sharper, and the words along the rim had a subtle doubling. Small, but unmistakable if you knew what you were looking for. They sent it to get graded. And that's when the world learned that this penny wasn't just unusual. It was a masterpiece of a minting error. A perfect storm of a double die obverse paired with an extremely high-grade condition, one of the highest recorded for that year. And when the auctioneers started the bidding, nobody expected what came next. The numbers climbed, past 5,000, past 20,000, past 100,000. And they did not stop. When the hammer dropped, the final price was over $1 million. Now I want you to think about that. A penny you've probably touched 100 times this year. A penny you've seen fall between the seats of your car. A penny your kids toss into fountains. One of those could be the key to a life-changing moment. Let's slow this down and look closely. If you have any 2015 pennies with the D mint mark, don't ignore them. This is not a joke. Get a magnifying glass. A jeweler's loupe works even better. Hold the coin under bright light. First, focus on Lincoln's eye. On the rare double die version, the eye appears almost outlined, like there's a shadow carved into the metal. Not printed, carved. In God we trust. The doubling, if present, won't look like blurriness. It will look like the letters were stamped twice, slightly offset. Then look at Liberty. Same story. Crisp, doubled edges. Not smeared. Defined. Finally, check the overall strike quality. Most pennies from 2015 are mass-produced and look fairly soft around the details. But the $1 million example stands out because Lincoln's coat and beard lines look deep, almost like they have layers. And here's another detail people overlook: the surfaces. This coin wasn't scratched. It wasn't dinged. It didn't live a hard life. It likely avoided circulation. Maybe it sat in a roll for years. So if you find one in near-perfect condition, your heart should start beating faster. Now let's reset for a moment. Imagine the feeling of discovering something like this. You're sitting at your kitchen table, sorting coins, maybe just killing a few minutes of your day. And suddenly you realize what's in your hand. That feeling of your breath freezing. That sinking in your chest. That trembling excitement like the world has just nudged you onto a different path, that it's not just a coin anymore. It's something else. It's possibility. It's hope. It's the idea that treasure doesn't always hide inside locked chests or shipwrecks. Sometimes it's right there in your change jar, waiting for someone patient enough to notice it. Collectors know this feeling. The late-night research, the careful handling, the thrill of spotting something rare, and the fear, yes, fear, of maybe being wrong. But when you get it right, when the grader confirms it, when the certificate comes back, there is nothing like that moment. Not every 2015 D penny is valuable. Most are just pennies. And some will have doubling that is worthless because it's machine doubling, not true double die. Machine doubling looks flat, shelf-like, almost like the metal slid sideways. True double die has depth. That is the key difference to SO. Look at the depth. Depth equals value. Now picture this. Years from now, someone is going to tell the story of how they found one of these pennies in a laundry room jar, or in a parking lot, or while helping their grandfather roll coins. And you will remember this moment. You will remember hearing that a penny minted in 2015 with a D mint mark could be worth more than $1 million. And you'll think, I could have checked. I could have looked. But here's the good news. You still can. They are still out there. These coins did not disappear. They circulated. They moved. They passed from person to person. Maybe into your hands. Maybe into your home. This is not a treasure buried under 6 feet of ocean. This is a treasure that could already be yours, silently waiting.